So let me take you back a little bit to a young boy growing up in Glasgow. Can you paint us a picture of what life was like growing up? What are your sort of early memories?
So I think I had just an average life with like most people. I wasn't particularly from a religious family. No one really prayed. None of the women really wore hijab. Yeah, in Ramadan we'd fast. You'd make an effort for Taraweeh prayers. You'd go for Jummah now and again. You'd go for the Eid prayer. You learnt the basics of Quran and madrasa, but that was about it. Most of it was going to school, um, playing a lot, doing sports, all the kind of stuff that other people was really doing at that time. I lived in a predominantly non-Muslim area, so I was a bit of a minority at school, probably one of the few Asians. So the usual at that time, you'd face racism. Uh, I think the society's gone a long way now. It was a lot more tolerant of racism then than it is now. My dad, as a businessman, you'd go to the shop, the restaurant, go in, and you'd help out in my teenage years. I would help out, work on the weekends. Typical stuff that really any other teenager do: play cricket, play football, that kind of stuff.
And you mentioned racism. I mean, are there particular instances that you remember of experiencing racism growing up?
I think it was just a regular occurrence. It was just a regular occurrence, just taunts, verbal insults. It was just a
And
constant
would
kind of
this
thing.
would this be at school or at
Yeah,
home?
at school,
And how did you deal with
or in the
that?
streets as well. I think you just you learn to stand up for yourself. So it was very much if you showed weakness, you'd be trampled on, and so you had to get into some fights. You'd have to show that you could take care of yourself, that you were not going to be a pushover, because if you showed that, then people it would just only increase.
And I guess growing up as well, particularly during adolescence, there's whole issues about identity and your journey that you're going through. Did you ever feel some of that real pull in these different directions about being from Glasgow, being South Asian, being a Muslim? Do you remember some of these sort of internal struggles at the time?
Of course, like most people, as a young child, even though I wasn't from a predominantly religious family, but certain things you didn't do, like eat haram, meat. So your dietary practice was different from all the other kids at school. Certain things that you did or didn't do. So, for example, I remember kids used to. I remember in school we were told, draw your favorite dish you have at a restaurant. I'd never been to a restaurant in my life because that wasn't the culture at that time. Whereas non-Muslim kids, they used to go out to eat, so they were all drawing stuff. So I had to pretend, I had to kind of imagine or just make up something on the spot. So I remember drawing a curry, and I tried to think of what does a curry look like in a restaurant. And I just made it up. So we didn't have that culture of going out. We didn't used to go on holidays. Our concept of going holidays was one day in Butlins or one day at Alton Towers when 50 people from your family would go down and a couple of vans for the day, and that was considered to be a holiday. So it wasn't like going abroad for a couple of weeks. The culture's changed now, but I'm talking about then. We didn't really go out for to eat out. Again, that kind of developed maybe in my teenage years, but as a child, we didn't really kind of do that. We would go visiting, other families and things like that. But in terms of what other people would do, in terms of going holidays, going out to eat, that kind of culture was very different for us.
And when you were in school, were you quite a quiet person? Or are you quite loud and sociable? Or because I guess now, you speak in front of thousands of people and stuff. Have you always been quite confident and quite outgoing?
I would say I've always been a quite a social and jovial kind of person. I do like to have a laugh. I do like my jokes. As a child, it was a bit of both. There was that a feeling of being a minority. I think as I got older, went to high school, that came out a bit more. My personality came out a bit more. I was quite sociable. I was always playing sports. I was good at sports, alhamdulillah. Whether I did basketball, football, rugby, cricket. So I was always involved in gymnastics. I was always involved in the school activities. In class, I did mess about, in class. I was a class joker, up to, pranks and things like that. But I did, participate with the teacher. I wasn't one of the shy, quiet ones.
And you went on to study law. Tell us about why you chose that, and what was it? Were you always on that trajectory to become a lawyer?
I think it's very difficult when you're making a decision of what you want to do for the rest of your life at age of 16. How many people really do know what they want at that age? I question that. I was at school. I wasn't the most intelligent, but I was well above average. Had decent grades. Your parents obviously have high expectations of you. One of my brothers had done accountancy. My other brother had done electronic engineering. My sister had become a doctor, was doing medicine. My other sister was doing IT. So there's an expectation that you need to do something. And I think it was more to do with what my family wanted from me rather than me. I don't think I really knew what I wanted, but I was kind of pushed towards law. Had the grades, and therefore I went into it. I thought it's a decent career. Everyone seemed to said, yeah, you can't really go wrong with it.
And what are your memories of university days?
University days, alhamdulillah, I went to Strathclyde University. University was good. I enjoyed myself. Didn't study as hard as I should have, like many people that go to university. I think you've come from a culture where it's very quite controlled. Your parents are always, on your case. You go to university, and you're on your own. Your parents think the parents, because they've never been to university themselves, they think all you do is study from morning to night. It's very easy to just tell me I'm in the library, I'm doing this and that. Yeah, I was in the library, I was messing about, and, socializing with my friends. But, you do have that scope of, you're a bit older, your parents trust you a bit more, you got grant, you got a bit of money, so you did tend to socialize and spend money going out, eating, all this kind of stuff. I did get involved in some societies. I ended up running the cricket club with my friend. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Met a lot of people, different from different countries, different age groups. Because at school you're on with the same age group. University, you've got older students. You've got people who are different ages. So you learn a lot more about life. You're a lot more exchange going on. They're asking you stuff. You're asking them stuff. You're learning a lot of life skills from other people. You're getting involved in different projects. There was a lot of dawah projects that were going on at that time as well. Getting involved in Radio Ramadan. I remember that happened during university. So you try, different things. You're sampling life. You're having different experiences.
And were you becoming more religiously aware and conscious about faith and religion at that time, or had it been started before university?
I think what happened was in high school, being a very sociable person, being in the rugby team, mixing with the cool guys, you could say. What happens around about the third, fourth year is that, obviously for non-Muslims, they start going out more. They start trying drink. They start having girlfriends, relationships. And at that point, one thing I was quite strict on was, I might have done a lot of things, but one thing I wasn't going to do was alcohol. I was quite strict about that. So there is this kind of barrier straight away, because one of their main, aspects of their life revolves around drink. And one of the things that we're quite strict on is that we don't drink. So I think at that point there was not a religious identity, but a kind of cultural realization that I am different. I have a different lifestyle from these people, but had great friends. So they'd talk about on the Monday what they did, and they got drunk and they got leathered, smashed, all this kind of stuff. whereas on the weekend I'd been at the restaurant helping my dad. So I think it happened at that point where you start to feel different. And I remember I'm in a predominantly non-Muslim, white, middle-class kind of school. So your colour's different, your religion's different, your culture's different. So you do feel this, that I'm different. And that takes you on your own journey of, who am I? What is my identity? As I went to university, I got a lot more Asian friends, a lot more Muslim friends, who are a bit more like me. So you're a bit more comfortable in who you are. But for me, the journey kept continuing, and again, I still wasn't outwardly practicing at this point. But because you're mixing with so many different types of people, they're asking you questions, you're asking yourself questions. You just start questioning your identity. Who am I? What am I doing here? Where am I going? And so I was starting to buy books on this kind of topic and exploring religion, I think, a lot more.
And did the Islamic Society have an influence or a role to play for you?
Islamic Society, I just joined, like in so many other societies I was joining at that time, just to try things out. So at least I found out where the Jummah was. I found out where I could, get some halal burgers. So at that time, they got a prayer room that year when I was there. I didn't really use it apart from Ramadan, but then, it got to a point where, because other people I knew would pray, I would just go along, pray with them. And so I slowly got into the whole Islamic Society from that perspective. Then during about second year of my course is when I did that 1 month course with Shaykh Hamza, which really, I think, changed my trajectory in life. At that point, I was still going to be a lawyer. I think at that point, I stood back and started to really reflect on what I wanted to do. One of the things I remember Shaykh Hamza said that, we've got lots of doctors, we've got lots of lawyers, and okay, what is the impact? What is their output? What is the footprint that they're going to leave behind for the next generations? And he said one of the things we're missing is scholars who are born, brought up in the West, who understand the West, and who can take Islam to the West. And then, he kind of asked us that, put it out there, and a lot of us that were actually on that course went off to study after that. At that point, I was just kind of thinking, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I was looking, I think university for me was a time of reflection as well. I was looking at what's happening in society. I was looking at our generation, how many of them, identified as Muslim, how many of them were engaged in non-Islamic practices. And I was thinking about the future. I thought, well, going forward, generations in the future, will we remain Muslim? Will this get passed on, or is it just going to be a cultural thing that will fizzle out with time? So all these things were going on in my mind at that time.
Thank you for listening to Desert Island Gems. Let us know what you think of the show and keep an eye out for special versions on McMuslim.tv.